Hello and welcome to Martyn Lucas Investors channel. My name is Sensei and we are here today for the Sunday show. We are going to have a very special one here today because we've got big news on the downgrade of the US credit rating. So that's going to play a big part in the markets. We've got futures opening soon. This is made during the Sunday show, so thank you everyone for tuning in. Please do hit the like button. We are on the final road to 100,000 subscribers as well, so please do subscribe if you're watching this. So, what is going on today with the US credit rating? We're going to have a deep dive into it. We're also going to be looking at the crypto markets, which are in untradeable territory right now. We keep getting close to breaking out and then we keep dumping. So we're waiting for more volume to come in this week, and we will have a decision this week whether or not the crypto markets, Bitcoin, XRP, will break out, because they are on the cusp of breaking out. But until they do break out, we do not know for certain that this bull market is here to stay. You can see we were getting excited again because Bitcoin was coming against that final level of resistance at $106,000. We got there today and we've sold right back off. So in my opinion, we won't get that breakout today. However, wait for the markets to open tomorrow and the futures trading to begin today, and we will finally get a final decision whether or not this 106,000 barrier will break this week. I'm optimistic it will, but for now, it is a lower low. Remember, we had the highs in January the 19th. So far, these highs have not broken out, so there is no confirmation of all-time highs for Bitcoin just yet, but that can change very, very quickly, and that obviously has an effect on the price of XRP, which thankfully is holding $2.30. Remember, I said if we break $2.30, $2 will be tested again, and that's not what we want to see. We failed to break out of $2.62 last week, and again, that's why I said that's of concern, because that was a level we wanted to break out of. That would allow the markets to continue its upwards trend. Oh, we've got another member. Thank you, Bill, for joining.
Bill84345 has become a member.
I will give the link for the membership in the chat as well. It's always in the description. So there we go. XRP again, as long as it holds 230, we can have another shot at $2.62. If we don't, get ready for $2. It's a shame we didn't break $2.62 last week. It is a sign of weakness, but it's not the ultimate sign. It's the sign for the short term that XRP was going to head down, and there it did. It did do exactly that. It didn't hold. It didn't break out $2.62 and hold, and therefore we got that 13% correction. Now let's see if we hold $2.30. If we do, then we can have another shot at $2.62. So this week's going to be pivotal for the crypto markets and the stock markets. But we're starting the futures trading with bad news. And what's that? It's the Moody's downgrades US credit rating May 2025 explained. So we're going to get onto that and show you, is that going to be some thundery news in the markets, giving you a taste of what our shows are in the morning. We do the forecast every morning, and what I mean by that, it's not the weather forecast, but the market forecast. So join me every morning, 2 hours before the opening bell. We do the forecast, do all the charts, and then we pass you over to Martyn for the opening bell. Let's see who's with us, and then we'll get on to the main story of today, do some of your requests, and see what everyone's thoughts are. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Please do hit the like button if you have just come in. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. And if you're not a member and you want to join the list of members, here is the membership link. So Matt was here, DJ Haynes is here. Politics or not economy is going to suffer, says Dan. Good evening. XRP moon landing, says Graham. Yes, our very own hashtag, Martyn's very own hashtag, standing on the moon. Robert is here. Thank you for becoming a member, Lynn Yastin. Let's make a little crash, says RB. Always a pleasure having you on the show, RB. Thank you for tuning in. Mark Lane is here. Okay, looking for small profits, day swing, and scalp trades. Stephen Nodowski is on the lookout for some trades. I love it. Your small profits are those big boy trades, as Saab says. I'm in the little train that could. Just some Just some more shares. Ola Clock says, Stephen, I'm out again. No shares, all uninvested cash. Right, I get that. I'm glad that you have bounced back from the loss and can still trade with a head on your shoulders. A lot of people could not do that or last it, if that makes sense in a polite way. Thank you for your thoughts. Yes, I had huge losses. Stephen, are we talking about SBC losses or anything since? Is this something more recent? Lindsay says SBC squeeze. Jeffrey's May 2025 raise 3% commission incentive to focus force a squeeze. Last raise for 2024 net was 64 million of 12.69 million share dilution. Correct. I do not have that news for you today, but we will look at the SBC chart because a squeeze is certainly happening at the moment, isn't it? Did you hear about the Russian drone attack on Ukraine? How would that affect the market volatility? I have not heard about that, Donald. Let me know if you have any more news on that. Good afternoon, Sensei. Luke said, family, Sandra's here, welcome in. It won't affect at all. There's been a warning. There's been a war been happening for years now. Yes, Jay Harrington, I guess, unfortunately, it's just one of those things that looks like it's going to continue to happen and the markets have got used to it. The Monopoly of the Elite. Aloha all says, Patrick G, welcome in. Morning show. Sold all my BTC and even made a profit on the chairman's seat. Congratulations, Zach Zay, on making profits. Stablecoin bill. Apparently, is the market going to crash on Monday? Martyn called this crash the other day. Now I'm hoping he's right about Monday. I just don't see anything good happening. TCG. Well, Martyn has got a lot of things right. So we'll see. We'll see. We can't get everything right, but let's see what happens on Monday. Yes, SBC 235k tax harvesting against capital gains. That's good, Stephen. In the UK, you can, as long as you declare it within 4 years, your losses, you can. You've got unlimited time to use those losses. What's the tax laws where you are? Do you know if you've taken a loss, do you have to declare it and then you've got indefinite use of it, just like the UK, or is it a bit different? Money making Mitch, wonder if SBC would drop below $4 this week. We'll have a look at SBC. As a developer of luxury villas, I'm tokenizing assets, selling to on-chain RWAs, opening them up to broad audiences. Can you see a shift into traditional real-world asset acquisition to more on-chain once quantitative QA starts? Once QA, what's QA? Quantitative. Let me know what QA is. It's a Sunday night. I should know what QA is. But yeah, I definitely see a shift to more of these real world assets on chain. I was referring to SBC. Thank you, RB. Oh right, okay. Sold everything and put it into XRP. If we get a dip, what are your thoughts? Buy XRP or BTC? I'm more high risk. I prefer XRP, and that's what I'll do. But again, that's not financial advice. I do not know what your risk tolerance is. I don't know what your goals are. Mine are high risk, high reward. That's why I go for XRP. Remember, nothing I say in this video is financial advice. This is just my thoughts and opinions only. What does Martyn say about Monday? Martyn is bullish on the markets. He's very, very bullish at the moment, but prepared for the downside as well. Please do watch his video that he put out yesterday. That will explain everything. There's about 50 different news items he covered, so that will explain it all. Quantitative easing. You said QA though, didn't you? Yeah, yeah. I think I don't think it really has much to do with that at the moment. I think quantitative easing will help the whole crypto market. I don't think the underlying building is going to change much when quantitative easing comes. Of course, it will help the businesses grow, but it will have an effect. But I think quantitative easing will be much better for the markets, or have a much bigger impact on the price action in the markets, crypto markets. Yes, I used tax harvesting for 3 years. I still have 9k to claim against capital gains. Well, that's good, Stephen. Congratulations for using that. Hi, Sensei, can you cover the XCN chart? If you do a $5 super chat, we can cover your chart. Or if you become a member during the show, you can also get a free chart. Shall I sell everything up Monday pre-market? Definitely can't answer that question, but that's a strange take. If you're investing in the markets, you should be prepared for all the downside and be investing 5 to 15 years. Okay, let's get on to the main story. Thank you again, everyone tuning in. We should have everyone in now. Please do hit that like button and help us on our journey to 100,000. So the big story of this week, of Friday, of what the markets are going to probably react to on Monday or on the futures open is this. Let me zoom out a little bit. So let me move this camera a little bit there. Okay. Moody's downgrades US credit rating, and this is the explanation. So, what is credit rating again, and what does it mean that it's been downgraded? Well, a credit rating is like a grade that the rating agencies give to government or company debt, reflecting how likely it is that they'll repay their loans. AAA is top grade, very low risk of default, while lower grades AA, A, BBB, C, all these sort of things means more risk. A downgrade means an agency thinks the borrower has become riskier, so the rating goes down a notch. For example, USA's top AAA rating was cut to AA plus in 2011 and was cut to an AA1 by Moody's, one notch below AAA last Friday. Lower rates can raise borrowing costs since investors demand higher interest to compensate for extra risk, and that's what it boils down to. If you've got a lower rating and they can default, then they have a higher likelihood of defaulting on their debt. Again, very, very, very unlikely because they're still an A. They're still in the A's. They're still at AA1. It's just one notch below. That debt that you're buying, via bonds, treasuries, whatever, is now more risky. So you want a higher interest rate, so it can compensate for that extra risk, and that's essentially what's happened. It's gone down a notch, which people are now concerned. Why has it gone down a notch? Because the debt's become more risky. Obviously, something's going wrong. So, who are Moody's? Moody's Investor Service is one of the big three credit rating agencies, along with the S&P and Fitch, that rate governments and companies. It has rated US debt since the early 20th century. In fact, Moody's first gave US its pristine AAA rating in 1919, and it had it ever since. So until May of 2025, Moody's was the last major agency still giving the US AAA. Now that Moody's cut the rate to AA1, no major agency rates US debt AAA. So the other two, S&P and Fitch, all have previously downgraded the US from AAA. So this was sort of expected, but also unfortunate because it's the last major credit rating agency that has downgraded the US debt. So that's who they are. So why did they do it? Moody's said it acted because long-term physical concerns have grown. Key reasons cited include soaring debt and deficits. US federal debt is now around 36 to 37 trillion.
RB donated $1.99 through a super chat. JEP/chart please. Conception to future analysis.
Thank you, RB, for that. I don't quite know what you mean by please conception to future analysis. If we have time, we will do that. Thank you, RB. Yes, let's do that. Sorry, where were we? We were at soaring debts and deficits. So yeah, the federal debt is now at 36 to 37 trillion and rising. Moody's noted the debt to GDP ratio is projected to climb from about 98% now to about 134% by 2035. That is a sharp increase. That is what they're seeing is going to occur. The debt is high. It's the not only is the debt high, but the ratio between how much money the US actually generates, they're projecting it's going to be more. So to GDP, if they took all of the GDP of 1 year of the US, they would be able to pay it off today, which obviously isn't possible because they have a lot of other payments to make. However, by 2035, it's going to be over 100%. So it's going to be double, or yeah, it's going to be a significant amount more than 1 year's of GDP to pay off the debt. So that's one reason. And we all know that's a major issue. Donald Trump has said he's going to help solve that issue, but these high debts are becoming an issue, not only because of what percentage of GDP they are, but because the interest payments alone at some point will become too much. So here we go, high interest costs. The government's interest payments are growing. Moody's pointed out US interest obligations are significantly higher than those of similarly rated countries. So that's another reason, the high interest costs. Large fiscal gaps. Annual budget deficits have been persistently large. Moody's warned that successive US administrations and Congress have failed to agree on measures to reverse the trend of big deficits. In short, they don't see a multi-year plan to get the spending in check, even though we've seen that Trump is trying to do that. These factors led to Moody's to conclude that the country's finances are less secure than before. The agency downgrade statement specifically called out the growing debt pile and rising interest costs, and it changed the US outlook to stable from negative to reflect that decision is driven by long-term trends. After the news, what's actually occurred? Well, the US Treasury yields jumped. Investors demanded higher returns for holding US debt. For example, the 10-year yield spiked to around 4.49% on Friday night. Higher yields mean higher borrowing costs for the government and other borrowers. As we said, the risk is higher, the investors demand better yields. Then causes interest rates to go up, all that sort of stuff. So stock markets were mixed. US futures dipped modestly. S&P futures fell about 0.6% after hours on Friday. This is similar to past events when Fitch cut the US rating in 2023. The S&P futures were only about 0.4% lower. The next trading day, Monday, may see some caution as investors digest the news. That's what we're getting ready for. Futures tonight, trading opening tomorrow. Historically, sharp one-day drops have happened. For example, in August of 2011, after the S&P downgraded, the S&P 500 index plunged around 6 to 7%. That year, the Dow fell 5.6% and the Nasdaq 6.9% in one session. Those sell-offs were fueled by growth worries and other concerns. So it wasn't purely on this, but we're talking previously this has happened. There's been certain times where it's only dropped a small percentage, and other times where the S&P 500 went down 6 and 7%. So anything's on the cards for tomorrow. In summary, stocks might see a short-lived volatility. After the 2011 downgrade, analysts noted that the sell-off was largely due to broader fundamentals, weak growth, debt debates, rather than the downgrade per se. Often markets recover after the initial shock. For for context, the S&P still finished 2011 up by about 2% overall. For now, yields being higher could weigh on interest-sensitive sectors, banks, home builders, but overall market impact is expected to be limited in the medium term. So keeping an eye on the home builders, banks is something to keep an eye on. Let's see if they present opportunity. Previously, in 2011, when we saw the S&P downgrade, the S&P 500 index dropped about 6 or 7%. That was quite quick. And then by the end of the year, that actually recovered and you ended the year up 2 to 3%. So short-term volatility is there, but it could be there, but I wouldn't expect it to make a big impact on the overall year. Cryptocurrencies moved with risk-off sentiment. CoinDesk reported major coins all slipped roughly about 3% after Moody's decision. For example, XRP fell around 3% on Friday, along with Ethereum and Dogecoin. Bitcoin was relatively flat. It hovered around 103,000, which is actually very key because remember, we want to hold that 100K mark, preferably staying above 102,000. Really gives us that strength to break out of 106,000. So as long as XRP stays around, initially it was around $2.50, now we're around $2.30. As long as it stays above $2.30, we can have another shot at $2.62. If Bitcoin stays above 100,000/102,000, we can easily have another shot at breaking it past 106,000. So those are the levels on a hold. To get a good chance of breaking out either tonight or this week. Some crypto analysts argue debt worries could actually boost Bitcoin in the long run, as perceived as a safe haven. Indeed, crypto.com news, crypto.news noted that Bitcoin has outperformed stocks in prior crises. It did better than equities during the COVID crash, for example. However, in the short term, markets are risk averse. Traders reduce exposure, so crypto prices dipped alongside stocks. Overall, the downgrade has been a modest drag on crypto prices, not a disaster. The arguments for crypto slash Bitcoin being a safe haven or somewhere investors will flee in times of uncertainty is yet to hold true. Investors will look at cryptocurrencies and look at them as a high risk asset. If it's risk off, it will be risk off. Gold will be gold. Bitcoin will be Bitcoin until maybe 5-10 years down in the future, if Bitcoin becomes what the investors want it to become now. Previously, it was a peer to peer cash transfer service. That's gone out the window. Now everyone's branding Bitcoin as a safe haven um, and a store of value. Until that happens, which to me is not in the foreseeable future, expect Bitcoin and crypto to go down in times of crises. If the S&P 500 crashes 10% one day, expect the crypto markets to crash over 10% in that day. Medium-term trends can change. The S&P can go sideways, crypto can go up, or crypto can go sideways, the S&P can go up or down. But we're talking if a sudden event of uncertainty occurs, everything will go down, crypto and stocks. So this is previous US downgrades. It helps to look back at similar events. Moody's cut is unprecedented for the firm, but not for the US. First, Standard and Poor's downgrade in the US in August of 2011 from AAA to AA+. That move caused a big market sell-off, as noted above, but within weeks the stock stabilized. So if it's going to be a sell-off, past events have shown us it will stabilize in the short term as well. Over the full year 2011, markets actually ended up slightly after recovering. Second, Fitch Ratings downgraded the US in August of 2023. We remember that, joining the S&P's early action, and I don't think much actually happened because of that. At that time, the US had a glowing last AAA rating left by Moody's. After that, Fitch's cut equity futures only dipped mildly, around 0.4%. So it could be like the last one we got in 2023, where it was a nothing burger and it went down 0.5% like it has today, and that was the end of that. The only caveat to that is, well, there was still another AAA rating left by Moody's. Now we're looking at a no major credit agency ranking US debt as perfect, and that's the that might be fueling the concern. In short, past downgrades caused initial jitters but no lasting crash. Bond yields rose modestly, and stocks often shrugged off the news after a few days. For example, after Fitch's 2023 downgrade, US equities market barely changed direction. Analysts and history suggest markets are driven more by economic fundamentals rather than letter alone, rather than the rating letter alone. So there we go. We've analysed it. I've brought you the news. This is why it's long-term bad. This is why they've reduced it, and we expect bonds and treasuries to rise because the debt is more risky. Long-term, this is bad for the US because there's obviously a concern of the debt. However, we've seen previously what happens, whether it's going to be a big correction, 6-7%, or a smaller correction like in 2023, a 0.5 correction. By the end of the year, both of those events, the markets were up. In one case, they were up the next week, and the other case, they were up in the next 3 weeks. And what matters more is other economic fundamentals. So that's the main news around this. I don't think we need to read this anymore. Should we read it? We want to do a deep dive. I'll go to your comments and we'll come back to this. I don't want to just read something long for too much. Let's see what everyone's reaction to this is. We've got a poll running as well. So, how do you feel about the US credit downgrade? It's a big deal. I'm selling, says 16%. That's more than expected. It matters, but I'm watching the Fed. You want interest rates more important. That's 16%. 38% of you say no worries, still bullish, and 30% say buying the dip. So it looks like around 68% of you also agree that it's not a big deal. 16% of you say it is a big deal, or around 30% of you think it's concerning in one shape or another. So do continue to vote on that. We'll see how we end by the end of this analysis and live stream. RB, if you want to guarantee to do a chart request, it's $4.99. But if we have time, we will do it. Did you let me know what you meant by conception? I fixed the AC Friday. That's good news, Stephen. Right now, the market just feels like the casino. I feel like it's 50-50 whether we're heading up to all-time highs or we're going down again. Yeah. Look, I'm more bullish on the market. I'm going to be honest, but the market is in a strange place. We've had a V-shaped recovery in the stock market, the crypto market. Bitcoin is hovering around those all-time highs, and we're waiting to see whether we get a higher high or a lower high, and whether this market's going to continue to downtrend. Look, I wouldn't be buying now. I wouldn't be trading now. Why? Because there was opportunity to buy a month ago when we came live. Right now is not a buyer's market, in my opinion. Right now is to make sure you've got a plan in case it does go up, because as you said, it's whether it's a 50-50, a 60-40, a 70-30, either thing can happen. We can have a breakout to all-time highs, or we can have another correction or crash. So what you need to do is be prepared for both scenarios.
Fermin RV has become a member.
Thank you, Fermin RV, for becoming a member. Thank you very much. So yeah, as he said, whether it's a 50-50, 60-30, 70, 80-20, both things can occur. So make sure you're prepared for both scenarios. That's why yesterday I did a video on, or the video came out on a potential bear market case for XRP. Not to be that annoying person that says, "Oh, I'm very bullish on XRP," and then put out a video of a possible 50% correction. It's more when everyone's bullish. At times where everyone's bullish, they always forget about the scenario, the worst case scenario, or a bad scenario. So I'm not going to come out with a 50% correction video once the 50% correction is already out. So I'm just putting it out there, and it's really important to put that video out there to should suggest or say this is something that can occur. We've seen markets go back up to their 786s and then retrace all the way back down. We've seen that if you don't put in a higher high, for example, on Bitcoin, that's the end of the bull market. And you really want to be prepared
Chris has
for
become
both
a member.
scenarios. Oh, we've got another member. Thank you very much, Chris, for becoming a member. If you do want to become a member, here is the link. So yeah, I'm not saying I'm bearish. I'm not saying I think the market's going to go down. I don't think this news is that important either. But what I am saying is be prepared for both case scenario. Right now, the markets are on edge. Breakout or no breakout, we don't know. It's at a point I don't really want to be trading the markets. A month ago, yes, I'll be buying the markets. Today, no, I wouldn't be buying the markets unless I'm a long-term investor and I've got a 5 to 15-year horizon, and I just want a DCA. That's always fine. Capacitors was bad. Luckily, I had an extra AC unit in my garage. No AC here in the UK. Sometimes I wish we did, but I think we'd only have to use it a few weeks of the year. Steve, bag of ice. You know where. Cryptos. Okay. Cellophane seem to be very helpful with heat dispersion too. Thank you, William. Capacitors not very expensive. For conception to be possible. From conception to be possible growth analysis if possible. I'm trying to figure out if I want to invest more in JEPQ.
Calvin Woodruff has become a member.
From conception. I think I've got the definition of conception right. That's from the beginning. I don't know what you mean. No, I've got this wrong. Yeah. Yeah, are you asking me to look at it from the day it was started IPOing? Possible growth analysis. I don't know, really know what you mean. Crypto market needs regulation. Stable coin bill will be important. Yeah, that is very important, and they need to get that right. Let me make sure I've got this here. So what we're going to do is go into members only mode. We've got a lot of members in the show today. So what I'm going to do is give you the membership link. There you go. If you want to become a member, there's a lot of comments, and I'm just going to go on to members only mode. Thank you for the new members, but let's do that. And Martyn's done as well. Remember, if you're on an iPad or an iPhone, you have to go to a browser, then you have to go to a desktop site. Talking about ACs there. Let me just keep moving down. Thanks for your information. Hopefully, May 30th, XRP Vegas, and July 14th with the ISO. Thank you, Chris. Breaking news: Joe Biden diagnosed with. Is that right? Is that right? So why is my internet? Why can't I? Let me see. Is that correct? I don't doubt you, DJ Haynes, but oh yeah, he has. That is breaking news. Oh my god, that is not good. Wow. Everyone's gonna be happy he wasn't president, and maybe that's why he stepped down. Let's bring this breaking news to you then. Do we have it on Sky News as well? Let's see if we can bring you this news. Breaking news. Thank you, DJ Haynes. Let's bring you this breaking news. Let's see if Sky News is live with it. I think they would have this, wouldn't they? Well, they're not covering it right now. We'll just bring you the news. Here we go. Perfect opportunity to tell everyone to make sure you go and get tested and do all the right things. I mean, there's just type in how to get checked and all those sort of stuff, because it is a very, very common thing, and everyone needs to make sure they get checked. So Joe Biden diagnosed with aggressive prostate cancer. Former US President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with prostate cancer, a statement from his office said on Sunday. Biden was diagnosed on Friday after he saw his doctor last week for urinary symptoms. The cancer is categorized by. Oh, I can't see that. Let's put it on the screen.
RB donated $9.99 through a super chat. All good if you don't understand. Add Martyn a good next song to request and learn as my future is looking so bright. I have to wear my shades. Huey Lewis and the News. Cool face emoji. Tumbler glass emoji.
Okay, thank you, RB. No, I guess I do understand, because you just said from the beginning we will have a look at that, especially now with your very kind super chat. So thank you very much. I'm sure Martyn will see that as well. Okay, back to the breaking news. Let's make sure we've got this live. There we go. Biden has the cancer is categorized by Glenson score of 9 with the metastasis to the bone, his office said, meaning that it's more aggressive form of the disease. Biden and his family are said to be reviewing treatment options. The statement said the former president's office added that the cancer is a hormone sensitive, meaning it can likely be managed. The news comes nearly a year after the former president was forced to drop out of his 2024 US presidential election over concerns about his health and age. He was the oldest person to hold the office in the US history. Biden, then the Democrat nominee vying for re-election, faced mounting criticism of his poor performance. According to Cancer Research UK, Biden's cancer diagnosis with Glenson score 9 means his illness is classified as a high grade, and that the cancer cells could spread quickly. What I find strange is how he's got the best doctors in in the world. I think probably, and it's already aggressive. So you'd think he would be tested a lot. That tells you, even if you have the best doctors in the world, these things can happen, and that means definitely go and make sure you get checked, because um, yeah, they didn't catch it. So everyone needs to make sure they get checked if you're, especially the males. Okay, so thanks for bringing that breaking news to us. We always cover any breaking news that unfolds during our shows, but I think we've had enough of that story. Oh my, thank you. As a hospice nurse, I can tell you we've met to the bone. It's only a matter of time. Thank you, money making Mitch. Okay. I hope not. Okay, let's do this. Back to the news, the US rating. So, is this a big deal or is it overhyped? If you have just tuned in, make sure you subscribe. Please do hit that like button. We're going to go over to some requests after the story. Um, if you want to get our merch, this one's actually discontinued. I need to get my new mug out the box. You can go to the official Martyn Lucas shop. That is martynlucasshop.com. Here is the merch store link. You've got the XRP merch, you've got the mugs, you've got the novelty items. Something new being added here as well is the signed Martyn and Sensei hoodie. You've got, this is request from, I think it was Poor Man, Rich Man, was it? I know I think the Discord name has changed. Let me know what your YouTube name is. Anyway, we've already sold one because it was a special request. And here it is. That's the bank. That's the front. You've got my logo. This is how he specifically requested it. So let me know if you want anything specifically as well. You've got my logo, Martyn's logo. Then you've got a big
Dan
Martyn
Ackerman
logo at
has
the back.
become a member.
Oh, Dan Ackerman, welcome to becoming a member. Limited to 10. So if you want that specific jumper, let me give you the link as well. There's only 9 left. It comes in a few different colours as well. You can get it in black, for example. Okay, so what we're going to do is get back to the story. Why is the black one not showing? Oh. Okay, let's get back to him. So is it a big deal or overhyped? Is Moody's move on a huge crisis signal or just bad press? Many experts say it's a warning sign for physical policy, not an immediate catastrophe. Consider the macro backdrop. Inflation is actually cooling. April 2025 CPI was only 2.3% annualized, and the jobs market is still strong. Unemployment at 4.2%. The Federal Reserve has paused on rate hikes, and the economic, and they're actually doing rate cuts, and the economic growth looks steady for now. This suggests the US economy itself remains fairly healthy, even as debt grows. Regulatory and market mechanics also limit the downgrade impact. For example, former strategist Toby Nangle noted that banks' capital rules don't distinguish much between AAA and AA1. In other words, US Treasuries still count as super safe collateral, and institutions won't suddenly have to hold more capital because of one notch change. So remember, this if this was a bigger move, this would have an impact on absolutely everything. I mean, the chain effect would be more than I can describe, and just from that statement there, you can see what the impacts of a lower um, risk rating is, or a higher risk rating is, and a lower credit rating is. If these drop, and people and institutions and the rules that govern the debt, if this credit rating dropped a little bit more and everyone thought US debt was risky, all these underlying treasuries, banks will have to hold more collateral. They wouldn't be able to just loan out money, loan out money, loan out money. They would actually have to hold more of the capital because it's more risky. And what's important that they've just said here, and this is essentially why the markets aren't moving on this news, or why it's not that important, is because the US Treasuries still count it as super safe collateral. So that means institutions won't suddenly have to hold more capital because of the one notch change. So it's nothing's really changing. If it was a bigger cut of the credit rating, then all systems would have to change. They would have to hold more capital, and be a bit more risk averse. Economist Mohammed Arian commented that while the downgrade is historic, he expects its market impact to be contained. Even the Treasury Secretary quipped Moody's is a lagging indicator, implying the market has already priced in most of the bad news. That said, Moody's actions underscore a real problem. US fiscal policy. Moody's chief economist warned that deficits need fixing or borrowing costs will rise over time. Spectre Hakumian said the downgrade continues a trend of fiscal irresponsibility and will eventually lend to higher borrowing costs in the US public and private sectors. In practice, that means mortgage rates, corporate loan rates, and other yields could be a bit higher than they otherwise would be, adding to the strain on consumers and business in the long run. Key takeaways. So, final thoughts. Moody's was the last agency keeping the US at an AAA. Now it is AA1. This reflects concerns about rising debt and deficits. In the interim term, markets saw a rise in bond yields and a modest dip in stocks and crypto. Cryptocurrencies like XRP and Bitcoin slipped a few percent. However, historical experience, 2011, 2023 downgrades, the two other major reporting firms, shows markets usually recover quickly, whether it's days or weeks, or not even react to the news. Most analysts believe the move is as significant as a signal that the US fiscal policy needs reformed, but not a reason to panic in stocks or crypto. The economy's healthy job market and moderate inflation offer a counterbalance. Ultimately, investors will be watching Washington's budget plans closely. Moody calls it a wake-up call to cut deficits, but the real test will be policy actions ahead. So there we go. That is the news around it. If anyone asks you about it, now you know what to say. Now you have a better understanding if you didn't already know all of this, and now you can make more informed decisions. To me, as I said at the beginning, underlying problems that hopefully will be fixed over time. In the short term, medium term, nothing. No. I don't think it will have an effect. If it does, it might be a bad day tomorrow, or it might be a bad couple of weeks. But over time, as before, this hasn't really affected the markets. I don't see it affecting the markets at all. But it's something to have in the back of your mind about the US markets. What would be worse if they downgrade it again? We're not in that territory yet, but that's the long-term concern of this. Back to the XRP, still holding $2.30, which is good. Bitcoin tried to break out into an all-time high. Again, it hasn't done that today. We're going to see how the markets react tomorrow to this news, and see what else comes out. But we are on the brink of a breakout, but there is that warning. If we don't break out that all-time high, if 106,000 doesn't break out, this could go straight back down as well. Let's go to your comments. Final thoughts. We'll do RB's request. If anyone else has a request, you can do a $4.99 super chat. If anyone becomes a member in the show, you can also have a request. There's the membership button as well. There is no 3-month badge, Steve. I made that mistake. I think it goes straight from 2 months to 6 months. So that will be even more fun when you get that. Thank you, Sensei, for what you do and the charts you read. I don't mean to be difficult, just trying to figure out what to do and get your input. Thank you, RB. Crypto has been all over the place for the last few hours, like waves in the ocean. God help you for having to read these charts. Steve, at times like this, there is no trade. It's useful to look at the charts, see what's going on, and you have your levels, 106,000 for Bitcoin to break out of, XRP had $2.62. But these small movements in between, it's all noise. Who knows? Don't trade it. Day trading, 95% of people lose their money. So we're here to keep these rational ideas. But thank you. Dan says I have been a member, not sure why I was already. As you can see, I've got a 2-month badge. Why I wasn't already? Why you weren't already what, Dan? I have been a member, not sure why I wasn't already. As you can see, I have a 2-month. I don't know what you mean. Please rephrase. Lewis, it's and the news is far more. Who Lewis and the news is far more important than Joe Biden's cancer. Wow, how sad. Steve T. I don't quite understand. RB, I think it gives you an opportunity to use that chat as a boost once you become 2 months, and you can now only just now notice it. Maybe. I'm getting confused in the chat. I don't know what's going on. Brilliant, Sensei. You down any research? You've done any research into BitMEX Ripple partnership post? No, I haven't seen that. Ripple. Let's have a look. Ripple. Is that breaking news? Let's see. This is Ripple's Twitter. I don't see any partnership news here on Ripple. No. If you're on Discord, you can always send a link. Okay, let's do the request for RB. Let me go over to fan funding. All good if you don't understand. GEPQ. GEPQ. Oh, no, JEPQ. JEPQ. Oh, this is a income ETF. Equity premium income ETF. So you've got 11% dividend on this, essentially. It'll be interesting to see what's actually in it. Let's see if we can figure that out. I'm gonna see if I can get you what they actually hold. JEPQ ETF. You said welcome to being a member, and I was already I assume something happened to auto renew of my subscription. Oh, interesting. Did it say you became a member, Dan? Or yeah, yeah. So did you not manually do that? Did you manually just do that? Because if it was automatic, it wouldn't come back up. Did you manually just do your? Yeah, interesting. Sorry, excuse me. Buy SBC, literally going to the moon. We'll stand on it, and it will be glorious. I hope so. I'm trying to figure out what this premium income actually is invested in for RB. It's one of our requests. Okay, let's stay on the US site. Let's get a few of these. Let's get the fact sheet. I'm going to do a little bit of a dive into this just because I'm interested, and it will help RB as well make his decision. Again, it's not financial advice. We're just getting a little bit more information. So this is what you're looking at, JEPQ. So what they're going to be invested in is not as growth orientated. So just keep that in mind. You can see where we are right now. The S&P 500 is near all-time highs. This hasn't really recovered from the crash yet, and over the last few years, it hasn't had as much growth as of the S&P 500. However, you have been getting a high. It's been compensated in a high yield. So what would be interesting is if Martyn can let me know how I can compare the S&P 500 with this. Because he's got a special software that I could basically, I think I could put in the dividend yield as well as the S&P growth as well, and then you can actually see who the winner is. I would imagine it's the S&P 500, but I'll be interested to see Martyn's software. I don't know if he can send that to me. If not, you can always request Martyn to do it, or I can do it on my next show. But just to have a look at what this actually is invested in, designed to provide current income while maintaining prospects for capital appreciation. So it's trying to have the best of both worlds here, generating income through a combination of selling options and investing in new large capital growth stocks, seeking to deliver a monthly income stream from associated options, premiums, and stock dividends. So it's very actively managed, it seems. Not always the best sign. Seeks to deliver a significant portion of the returns associated with the Nasdaq 100 index with less volatility. Constructs a long equity portfolio through proprietary data science driven investment approach designed to drive portfolio allocations while maximizing risk adjusted expected. They're going to have a high, going to have to pay a high price for this, aren't you? What's the, how much do you have to pay for this? PE is 23, beta is 0.72. EPS.
Joseph C. Webb 2 donated $4.99 through a super chat. ZBC and entry points if you were in this.
Thank you very much. We'll have a look at that, Joseph. We're just on RB's request. I'm just trying to see how much it's costing you to do this. Oh, management fees. Oh, it's not too bad. 0.35%. Not too bad at all. What are they invested in? They are invested in, well, they're doing options, and their top 10 holdings is Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, Alphabet, Broadcom, Meta, Netflix, Tesla, and Costco. So it very much looks like the Nasdaq or the S&P 500. Those top 10 holdings. I'll just be careful because obviously they're doing option trading within it, and it's probably index funds normally perform better. However, this hasn't recovered as well. We don't have as much data. I mean, I can try and overlay the S&P 500. This has only been launched in 2022, it seems. Let's try and overlay same percentage scale. Does that work? Yeah, you can see. Can't do much, but what I can show you is the S&P 500 here is in pink, and you can see the S&P 500 since 2023 went up about 47%, and this one has only gone up 30% in that time. So they very much track each other. I guess it's a way of getting more income and dividends from it. Um, I couldn't tell you which one's better. What I would do if I'm looking for income, if I want the income, if I've got enough money to get a significant amount of income, then yeah, maybe this is a good option, the JP Morgan Nasdaq Equity Premium Income, because as you can tell, what they're trying to do, what they're trying to optimize is getting you that high dividend of 11%, 11.3%. So if you're interested in putting money somewhere and taking an income, then maybe that's for you. If you're actually interested in letting your money grow for 5 to 15 years, or a long-term horizon, which is what you always have to do when you're investing in equities, then I would go for the S&P 500 or the Nasdaq or the All World ETF. This is more closely correlated to the Nasdaq, so I think that's what you would have to compare it against. So if we bring the Nasdaq on this as well, Nasdaq, put on the same percentage scale. So Nasdaq is now in purple. You can see the Nasdaq is very much recovered. You can see since inception, the Nasdaq has outperformed by 57%. The S&P 500 has outperformed by 38%, and this one is only up 4% since inception. So, it's outperformed by around 52%, outperformed by 34%. The S&P 500. So, what you can see is the other ones are focused on growth. This one's focused on income. They might very well nearly even out. I would say that it depends. If you want income, go for that one. If you want growth, then the Nasdaq is obviously provided the best amount of growth out of all of them, and that's what it's going against. So there you go. The analysis will be the same for for all of them, where it's breaking out the 786 decision time. The markets will go where they want to go, but this is more of a long-term investment. So there you can see the chart. Nasdaq in purple, S&P in pink, and JEPQE in down here. It actually hasn't performed very well since 2022. So all you've got is your 10%, 10%, and it's only up 4% in the last 3 years. There you go, RB. Let me know if you want anything else specific about those two. We'll get rid of that. ZBCN. Oh, is this one of the ones that we want to get into? ZBCN, is this one of the ones? Is this a new cycle token? Yes, it is. 2024. Well, it's interesting. It's whether or not you want to get in straight away. If you really like the token, you think it's going to do what a bull market does and go up past its all-time highs and continue, then you might as well DCA now because you're going to get good returns. However, you won't put all your money in. Again, it's not financial advice. If I'm going to get into this, and essentially I want to get into a few of these new tokens, I would buy a little bit today just to get in 10-20% of my the amount I want. Then I would be buying at 0.0014. That's this area over here. I always leave enough cash that if we get that worst case scenario, the 90% corrections in a bear market, then I can buy it for the best price. And for that, that's looking like a 55% correction to buy at 0.00076 at the all-time lows. Remember, there's a nice accumulation pattern here. Breakout, breakout again, and we're looking to break out of 0.0019. So if I really want to get into this, it doesn't seem like it's the most overvalued coin out there, so I would buy some here. If it had a massive green candle and we were going and we were at the top, even if I wanted to get in, I wouldn't because I don't like buying on a massive green candle. The chart actually looks pretty good for this. You've got a nice accumulation. You've tried to break out before. This time it looks like you're trying again, so you're more likely to break out. So I would buy a bit now. But I would definitely leave a lot more to buy down at 0.0015, so potentially limit order around that area, and then always planning for worst case scenario, or not even worst case scenario, but a bad scenario of a bear market, buying it down at 0.007 and 0.0009. There you go. That's the areas I would buy. Chart's not looking horrific. If the altcoin season comes, I can see this going to all-time highs very, very quickly. So let's add this to our watch list, ZBCN. So we will be looking at this more often. So there you go. If you tune into the shows, we'll cover this as well. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Is there? I thought we had Jerry and Alba in the show, but it was bless you, no worries. Thank you, that helps me understand. I have both VU and JEPQ, but you explained it well. I'm keeping both. Yeah, that's another way of doing it. Definitely keep both. Because it seems like now you have a bit more exposure to NASDAQ, but in terms of income now. So diversifying is never a bad idea. Again, not financial advice. I did just renew because I couldn't comment on members only. Yes, Dan out. It just probably stopped auto renewing. Okay, we're going to have our show in the morning. We go live 2 hours before the opening bell. If anything crazy happens tonight in futures, I will go live. So make sure what you have to do is, I'll show you now, so you don't miss out on any show because we'll go live on any news event. You see where it says I'm going to unsubscribe for a second? There we go. Don't copy me. If you do, you have to press subscribe, and then you see over there. Oh, it's not showing on my computer's a bit weird because I'm showing you in a different way. Oh, there we go. Press that. You can press this. It's notifications, and make sure you've got it on all. We don't notify you unless we're going live. So click on that notification bell. I think you can do it when you're subscribed as well. Yeah, when you're subscribed, you don't need to do that. When you're subscribed, just press all. Because I might go live tonight. Make sure all your notifications are on, just in case. If you haven't done so already, please do subscribe. My low entry is not 0.0014. Yeah, yeah, or just to make sure I get in, I would actually say 0.0015 or 0.0015 just to make sure that entry does get filled because some people want to front run a trade, and the low entry would be, yeah, the lowest would be 0.008 and 0.009. There you go. Again, that's just my levels. Thank you for the live stream, Sensei. It's much appreciated. Thank you, James, for being here. Golden area for ZBCN is 0.007. That it may not come back to that, but 0.0014 is lower support. Holding 0.0018 really well. Yeah, it's actually looking quite good. That's why I'd buy some even now. Don't like buying it when it's high, but I wouldn't mind owning it a little bit now as well. Let's see where we're going to be. I think let me redirect you to the extra channel. There we go. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow, 2 hours before the opening bell. We do our normal morning shows. It's been a great show. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Do watch tomorrow. We'll go straight to the extra channel because there's a very important video Martyn's restreaming to tell you all about what's going to go on this week. Lots of news items on that as well. I will actually give you the link for that as well. Let me find the link because that's if you haven't watched it from yesterday, it's probably the most important video you can watch. So let me find you that. Might be a good watch. Well, I know it's a good watch if you haven't watched it. So let me give it to you. It will be playing on the extra channel. But if you want to also know exactly which one I'm talking about, it's this video here. Oh,
Matthias donated 50
Matthias.
Norwegian kroner through a super chat. Have a good night and rest well, Grandmaster Sensei. I know I am going to. Big week ahead. You
Yes,
guys are the
everyone rest
best.
up well. Get ready. It's never a dull week, but this week seems like it's going to be a big one. This is the week to stay with us. It's breakout or fake out or downwards action. This is going to be a big week. Let's do it together. Everyone rest up. Nothing big going on tonight. Futures are opening, but get ready for the week. Thank you, everyone. That's the link for Martyn's bet on the USA before Monday. So definitely watch that. And then we've got the extra channel live as well if you want to continue the conversation. Until next time, which is tomorrow, 2 hours before the opening bell, take care of yourselves and each other. Bye-bye.